So today I'd like to go over our Slipstream planning guide. This is a document, it's also online, but what we want to answer, the questions we really want to answer are, will the Slipstream fit in my pool? And how do I decide where to locate it? I mean, on what wall? How would I know? There are so many issues, and they're really described pretty well in this planning guide. We can see these various configurations. So let's go through them one at a time. So our standard installation, which is shown here, is just against a more or less vertical wall. Let's put it in and imagine, here's a location. I can drop it in, all right? And then it rolls down the side and I put it right down there. Now, notice in this installation, I'm well below the water line. I have to adjust the height of this rail. That's the first thing I'm gonna have to do for this pool, and I'll have to do it everywhere. So one of the first questions is, what is my freeboard? And by freeboard, I mean the distance from this horizontal surface to the water line. In fact, I'll take my screwdriver. It's only that much, which isn't very much. This rail is adjustable, and it can cope with a freeboard of almost 0. In other words, the water's right up to the edge, or all the way up to about 9 inches. Now, if you have a freeboard greater than that, we can offer a custom rail that is longer. So I want to adjust it so that the water line, when I'm finished, is right about here. I'd like it right about there. So I can just start to see these openings, and that will yield the smoothest current. So on the back of this planning guide are some places where we can put dimensions. And this particular dimension, this freeboard, is shown here clearly on the drawing, and we want to write how many inches that is. We also have another dimension, which is how much does the coping overhang? All right, what's the overhang here? And really all I'm looking for is, I look down this coping, I can see where the wall is. If this sticks out too far, we have a bit of a challenge. If it sticks out more than 1 3/8 inches, we would want to provide some standoffs, which we also can do. So it's important to measure what that overhang is, and that's right here on this drawing. Our next dimensional issue is, what's the depth of the water where I might want to put this? This is actually transitioned from the shallow end to the deep end, but let's just try it right here. So what I would do is, I want to come off the wall about 1 foot, and I want to see how far down is it below the water line when I start to touch that wall. And it's about 60 inches here. What's important here is that the whole unit stands below the water line 35 inches, 34 3/4 inches. So I need 34 3/4 inches of wall. I've measured 61, but now since this wall has a cove, I have to measure right at the edge of the, right here, right against the wall. How far down do I have 36 inches straight here? And where that cove starts is about 38 inches. So in this particular location, I have enough room. As I moved around the pool, however, I likely wouldn't. Let's go to one of those places where I probably wouldn't have enough room. The challenge is that right here, below the water line, right at the edge, where the cove starts, is about 29 inches. And I would write that right as this dimension on the drawing. And then 1 foot out, it's 36 inches. So this is really a marginal location for it. And we'll put it in here just to show you how that works. But let's put it first in the location where it clearly fits. So again, I can drop this down, and it is more or less vertical, okay? So this is a pretty good spot right here, and I'm imagining from the wall standpoint, it would be a good spot all the way around. Let's put it though in that place where it was very shallow. That would be right here. And if I put it here, notice that it's no longer vertical, it's tilting up a little bit. From the standpoint of the flow, however, that's going to be okay. It's not really a problem because the water will come out, and I would need to adjust this whole thing down a little bit, whereas it fit here, here it won't fit because you can see there's some opening there. I need to adjust the rail down, which I can do to move it down into the pool. But generally speaking, this shallower area is not as desirable as a deeper area, although I like to have the unit in the shallow end so I can put a mirror on the bottom if it's flat. I can really see what I'm doing as I swim. So let's go back to this other shallow end location. We've adjusted this height so it can accommodate that. Let me drop this down, and that will work nicely. That will create a nice current right down the center of the pool. That's terrific in every way but one, and that is there isn't much room here. It might be hard for me to pull this out, particularly if I wanted to lay it down. This is an awkward spot to do that. And they get an awful lot more awkward when you really have no walkway at all. So this is not really quite as nice as that location there, but it could work. These are all trade-offs that you have to make in deciding where this thing can go. And the beauty of it is it's so portable. You can try it in multiple locations. So we have here a very common occurrence in pools, a bench. We have a bench and we have stairs. And they really do pose a problem. I don't know what we can do with stairs, but there are some things you could do with a bench, but it does require some effort to make that possible. It's not going to work if I put it on the bench. That's not going to be good. So the question becomes, well, how would I put it down here? Is that even a possibility to put it right there? If I had something on that bench, a plinth, some sort of a support that would hold this, okay, that I could rest this on, I could actually imagine putting this all the way down and stopping it and resting on that plinth. So it would go all the way down to there. I just need to bring something up to the water line. So what would that be? The very simplest thing might be some pavers, 18 inches by 18 inch pavers available at Lowe's. And you build that up and it's nice and strong, and you bring it up to just below the water line, just below the water line. And it isn't that obtrusive, but obviously these are aesthetic decisions that you need to make. You can easily remove this. If you put a stone plinth in there, that would be a challenge to remove each time. So these are why we don't like benches, but that is a solution for the bench problem. So other obstacles in a pool might include a ladder. You don't want to put it right in front of the ladder. You could put it on either side. I don't want you to have it put over a light or a skimmer. You've got some return fittings, but you need to be mindful of what's in the pool that would obstruct this unit, make it difficult to remove. If you're not doing the standard install, which 90% of customers will do something standard, namely it's a vertical wall more or less, and you've got at least 35 inches to accommodate the whole machine below the water line. But there are these special considerations.